You don't feel behind because you're failing. You feel behind because you're comparing your life to timelines that were never yours. And that distinction matters more than you think, because the feeling of being behind is not always about reality. It's about perception, it's about exposure, it's about the constant pressure of seeing everyone else's progress without seeing their process. And if you don't understand that, you start attacking yourself for something that isn't even true. Let's slow this down. When you say you feel behind, what does that actually mean? Behind compared to who? Behind compared to what? Behind according to which clock? Most people never ask those questions. They just feel the anxiety. They feel the tightness in their chest when they scroll. They feel the subtle drop in confidence when they see someone younger achieving something bigger. They feel the pressure when someone announces a new job, a new house, a new relationship, a new milestone. And slowly, quietly, that pressure turns into a narrative. I should be further. I'm wasting time. I'm not moving fast enough. Everyone else is ahead. But here's the truth. You are not behind. You are just seeing an edited highlight reel of other people's timelines while living inside the unedited version of your own. That will distort anyone's perception. Imagine watching a movie where you only see the victory scenes. No struggle, no doubt, no failed attempts, no uncertainty, just the wins. And then you look at your own life, which includes confusion, setbacks, wrong turns, and quiet days. Of course, you would feel behind. You're comparing your raw footage to someone else's trailer. That is not a fair comparison. But your brain doesn't automatically know that. Your brain responds emotionally first, and emotion is fast, logic is slow. So when you scroll and see someone your age earning more, traveling more, building faster, your nervous system reacts before your reasoning catches up. It doesn't calmly analyze context. It reacts with threat, not physical threat, status threat. And status matters deeply to the human brain. For most of human history, your survival depended on your position within a small tribe. If you were falling behind socially, economically, or physically within that tribe, it meant vulnerability. So your brain evolved to monitor status constantly. The problem is your tribe is no longer 50 people, it's millions. You are comparing yourself to people in different countries, different industries, different economic backgrounds, different stages of life, and your brain treats all of them as direct competitors. That is not natural, it's overwhelming. And when everything feels like competition, peace becomes rare. Now let's talk about timelines. There is an invisible script most people absorb growing up. By this age, I should have this. By that age, I should achieve that. Graduate by this year. Earn by that year. Own by this year. Settle down by that year. And if those milestones don't line up exactly as expected, the feeling of being behind creeps in. But here's what no one tells you. Those timelines were built for a different era. Different economy, different technology, different opportunities, different challenges. You are living in a world that changes every 5 years. Entire industries appear and disappear within a decade. The path your parents followed does not map cleanly onto the world you're navigating. So measuring yourself against old scripts will always create distortion. And even measuring yourself against your peers can create distortion because you don't see their debt, their stress, their uncertainty, their luck, their support system, their shortcuts, their sacrifices. You only see the milestone. And milestones without context look effortless. That illusion is powerful. It makes you question your pace. But pace is not linear. Growth is not synchronized. Some people accelerate early and plateau later. Some people struggle early and compound later. Some people build quietly for years before anyone notices. If you judge the middle of your journey against the peak of someone else's, you will always feel behind. Now let's go deeper. Feeling behind is often less about achievement and more about direction. When you don't have clarity about where you're going, every direction looks better than yours. If you don't know your target, every comparison feels threatening. But when you have a clear path, something changes. You stop measuring sideways, you measure forward. That shift is subtle but powerful. Instead of asking, am I ahead of them? You start asking, am I moving closer to my goal? That question brings peace, because progress becomes internal, not external. Most people feel behind because their metrics are borrowed. They are measuring themselves using goals they didn't consciously choose. High salary, prestige title, luxury signals, public recognition. But if those goals aren't deeply aligned with you, chasing them will always feel empty, and watching others achieve them will always sting. So here's a question worth sitting with. If no one could see your life, if there was no social media, if there were no public milestones, what would progress look like to you? Not what would look impressive, what would feel meaningful. That distinction matters because when your goals are internally defined, comparison loses power. Now let's talk about the emotional side. Feeling behind creates urgency. Urgency creates pressure. Pressure without clarity creates impulsive decisions. You change paths too quickly. You abandon long-term plans. You chase trends. You try to catch up instead of build steadily. And ironically, that reactive behavior slows you down even more. You start running in different directions instead of walking steadily in one. And the more fragmented your effort becomes, the more behind you feel. It becomes a loop, but the loop is breakable. The first step is understanding this. You are not late. You are early in something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Most breakthroughs look invisible right before they happen. Most growth looks stagnant right before it compounds. The problem is social media rarely shows the quiet build phase. It only shows the launch, so you assume everyone else moved faster. But what you're not seeing are the years of quiet groundwork. You are measuring visibility, not preparation. And preparation often takes longer than visibility. Now here's something else. The feeling of being behind can actually be a signal. Not that you're failing, but that you care. You wouldn't feel behind if you didn't want more. You wouldn't feel restless if you didn't believe you were capable of something bigger. That restlessness is not weakness, it's potential asking for direction. But direction requires calm, not panic. You don't build faster by shaming yourself. You build faster by clarifying your next step and committing to it. Not 10 steps. 1. Consistency beats urgency. Every time. Now, here's where this connects to something deeper. If you constantly consume other people's progress without building your own, your brain stays in comparison mode. But if you reduce consumption and increase creation, the energy shifts. You feel behind when you watch too much and build too little. You feel aligned when you build more than you watch. That's a controllable variable, and most people underestimate it. If you replace 1 hour of scrolling with 1 hour of focus building daily, 6 months from now, you would not feel behind. You would feel grounded because action neutralizes comparison. But that action must be directed, not scattered. And this is where structure matters. Clarity, focus, intentionality. You don't need to rush. You need to aim. Because being behind is not about speed, it's about direction. You can move slowly in the right direction and still arrive. You can move quickly in random directions and never reach stability. So instead of asking how fast you should be moving, ask whether you are moving intentionally. That question changes everything. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine removing comparison for 30 days. No scrolling, no measuring, no checking, just building, just learning, just refining. How would that feel? Probably uncomfortable at first, then peaceful, then powerful, because your energy would stop leaking sideways and start moving forward. You are not behind, you are overloaded with other people's timelines. And once you understand that, you stop racing imaginary clocks, you start designing your own. And when your timeline becomes yours, pressure fades, focus sharpens, and progress becomes sustainable. If you're ready to move from scattered comparison to structured direction, that's exactly why I created the exit map. Not as hype, not as fantasy, but as a framework for choosing a path and staying on it long enough to compound. Because once you stop measuring sideways, you can finally start building forward. And that's when the feeling of being behind disappears. Not because you caught up to everyone else, but because you stopped chasing them.